what's the youth's name? Trayvon. Trayvon Martin. 17 years old. And the killer, the murderer, the perp. What's the perp who think he's a white man? You look at him, like I said, he like some mutt. He actually, this is probably what the psychology of that dude, judging by Francis Cress Welsing's excellent psychological work, the ISIS papers, which breaks a lot of that down, is that he's trying to be the white man overseeing policing this like what gated community, and he's trying to be the white man, trying to live up to the so-called Aryan dream. But if you look at him, he looks like a mutt. When I say a mutt, some mixture. He looks like a kind of a person, like most people that try to pass for white, but we know they're black. Like one of the people that could be trying to pass for white. So he's going around, being the unelected, unofficial policeman for the gated community. And they say he went around knocking on some people's doors, telling them, about about certain, watch out for like certain dangerous black males. They said black youth, but really it's black males. So this Trayvon Martin, right? Trayvon, Zimmerman, George Zimmerman. I mean, this is just another in a slew of very disgusting, and obviously, racially motivated. For somebody to think, this is the thing about it. They have, at least on the CBS show, CBS News, they showed that there was some protest and some so-called black church is trying to speak out about this, because this now seems to black people, now this is a travesty of justice. The fact that the Zimmerman guy, what they used to call that person, Ugly George Zimmerman. Ugly George Zimmerman is not even charged with anything. Well, because the gun is legal, but the person who was killed had no weapon on them. Had no absolute weapon. I bet you they couldn't even show any marks or anything on this person. You hear some shouting in that release 911 call. You hear some shouting. And Ugly George, or Zimmerman, he claims, he claims, it's like a Son of Sam kind of thing. This person's probably part of this MK Ultra. He's probably like a mind control person, because he think he's white, first of all. Look at his picture. He think he's white. And because he's kind of like right between, the so-called Aryan, blonde hair, blue eye, so-called modern Aryan type, and the African-American type, he's really confused. He's not going to go and mess with white folks, because white folks will put him down like a mangy Jewish dog. Yes, he's a Jew. Look at that. He's not a real Jew, but he's a cryptic Jew. He's a synagogue of Satan Jew. And they let him go. They let him. I know there's much more to this, because this reminded me of the one in New York, the case here in New York with the young black man going home, right after some police kind of had some stuff going on, like looking some drugs, whatever. He just walking. The guy, you can see him on the video. He's walking. He's not running. He goes in his house, and the police run after him, and then they say, "Oh, the police officer was poorly trained, shot him, and killed him in his house in front of his grandmother and other members of his family. He was in the bathroom, and they try to say that he was trying to flush." You see, they say that, and you remember how long they were in the so-called house looking for stuff, and they must have found some marijuana, and they're trying to make it seem like, oh, that was a drug house, and that's the reason, trying to still justify evil, wickedness, in whiteface, yes, but still trying to justify wickedness. They went in there and they tried to make it seem like he was flushing so-called drugs down the toilet, but he was in his house. And you see the surveillance camera. When the police run up, these little Oompa Loompa kind of police officers, But they have, even if they are cartoon characters, they are carrying around deadly force, and that's the thing we need to think about. That's the thing we need to not just think about, but also, instead of being reactionary. Here's another of these cases. You see blacks reactionary. They want, they want justice for this, so they're marching to the courthouse. But then that tweet about the Wall Street protest, so they're not going to take us seriously until what? Until some. Basically, they're not going to take you seriously until you fight back, But then, because niggas are so programmed, see, we have to recognize this is kind of all connects with what we've been saying and what many others been saying before us. Excuse me, that niggas are so traumatically programmed, and they have flipped the whole relationship of black people to God and black people to themselves and their family, and the man to the woman and the woman to the man, and both of them to their children, have turned everything adversarially. You understand? You get that split screen, there's like a split screen, have turned everything adversarially. Have turned everything adversarially on its. Put on here, yeah. But wait till you. All right. Yeah. All right. Whatever. I'm just trying to get this out right here, because these things, like His Majesty said, until the least, like I have to have eternal vigilance. Eternal vigilance, so that even these little things that seem like little things, can't go by. Peace is not something that comes because people say peace. Peace comes with a price. Unfortunately, fortunately, whatever, it's the reality that peace comes with a price. Remember the speech of His Majesty where he says ones have to be have vigilance about these things, that these kind of violations of human rights. But they've already, and this is why with the media and these shit ass so-called hip hop artists and this counterfeit so-called Christianity that nigger preachers practice, these shepherds for hire, these shepherds for tithes. That's what they'll shepherd the people as long as people give them money, and they can make money, and they can basically, they used to be pimping, pimping the woman. Now they pimp the woman in the church. They pimp the whole community, because the whole community has been feminized, because the black male has been castrated. And we have these examples now where they've already killed the black man before killing him, with the whole deadbeatism. And now with the young black man, they'll say him, the Trayvon was cute as a young child, but see, he was coming to the age of manhood. He was coming to the age of manhood. And what the Brother Hana Selassie Bob Marley told us in the song, and many other teachers have told us, kill them before they grow. That's their strategy, to kill them before they grow. Even the most racist cracker doesn't have a problem for little, unless even the very racist still can tolerate. They think black children are cute, man or woman, male or female. Black child is cute. Until that black child now comes of man estate, then he becomes public enemy number one. And then if the black male happens to live long enough to become geriatrics, if he reached the level of geriatrics, and he retired, and he was a systemic nigger, he was a nigger that was in the system, he never ended up in jail, always paid his taxes, never got in trouble with the law of the Lord, you understand? Therefore, he becomes nice again. Because he is like sterile. He's like somebody like you. He's castrated bull. But once the bull now, is no longer a little calf, but now it grows up. Sometimes they still slay them for these blood sacrifices. The young black children, you still hear them, ending up missing, in some way. We know the Jeffrey Dahmer story, and there's a lot of other stories that get suppressed in the media, because they can't have people really looking at what really is going on. But this story about young Trayvon, a murder victim, You know, he's a murder victim. And should we say the murderer is a secular so-called Jew, you know, or a synagogue of Satan Jew, you understand, who think he's white. You see, you look at his picture, you can clearly see that, you know, he has some black in him, but this is part of the repressed psychosis. You know what I mean? Instead of helping black people, you know what I'm saying, in the black community, he thinks he's a middleman. You know, he's the law. You know, he's a what student? He's a that picture there. Yeah, he's a law student. So they just question him. And then when I heard the story, when I first heard the story, you know, a lot of these stories we hear, and you know, here's what sometimes happens. One become they call it desensitized. You know, you get desensitized to hearing these stories over and over again, and that's also part of it. And I'm sure a lot of people probably heard about this story, and it's like, you know, it's almost the usual reactions, like, oh, what can you expect? Oh, that's what they'll do. That's why you gotta really be careful. That's why you better not answer them nothing. That's why you better, you know, just keep on walking. Don't say nothing. Don't speak back. You know, say yes some, no some. You know, and like they won't shoot you in your back. You know, like that never happened before. You know, that would be a new one. You know, and when we talk about the black leadership, you know, I like to say, you've heard me say this, others heard me say this before, the unelected black leadership. You know, the Sharptons, Jesse Jacksons, they're the two main ones. They have their understudies, but they're the two main ones that we've seen them over the last like 20 or so years, always front and center. And in a couple of cases, yeah, they was a stopgap measure, so forth and so on. But we know they bootleg. You know what I mean? We know they're part, and this is why I love brother Bobby Hemmett in that you know Jesus Christ. You know, the Jesus Christ that the niggas have been traumatized to worship. You know, Cesare Borgia is a devil. You know, it's a devil. They're worshiping the devil, and they don't even recognize it. That's why they're not even responding like white. How will white people who are Christians respond to such a thing? Now, see, niggas think, well, okay, you need to have money. Well, where's the niggas with money? Niggas with money are so compromised. You know, bootleg. They are advisors to the king. So when something happens, these unelected black folks that tell you that your vote matters and you better go out there and vote. And we don't even stop to think that these same so-called black leaders, who did we ever vote for y'all? You probably don't go to their church. You're probably not even part of their denomination. You're probably not even a member of their same denomination. Yet, and still. You understand? These people will pop up, tell us when election time, we better get out there, we better vote, so forth and so on. When some crisis happens, or some racist incident happens against black people, you know what I'm saying? We'll see these same leaders will hog up the spotlight. You know what I'm saying? The media will put them on their ear. They will kind of tell us, well, what the black community, you understand, thinks about this situation. And we don't even stop to think one time. You see, this is why niggas can't free themselves, because they're not even thinking freely. They're not even stop to say, well, why can't we elect our own representatives? You understand? I'm not talking about in the government, in our community. Not like when things happen for white people, Chinese people, other people, you don't keep seeing the same old leaders jumping up there, the same old politicians jumping up there. You see other people coming from the community to represent the community. I'm sure they even probably, you know, have some sort of get together behind closed doors to really decide, you know, what's what. Now, of course, the racists, you know, the so-called crackers and the white supremacists, they love this. You know why? Because we can't even say they think this guy is a white guy, because in their book, the guy Zimmerman, Ugly George Zimmerman, is a Jew. and they don't regard him as a white guy. Now notice where he's at. This is what we talk about Francis Crest the Welsinian theory of this. The theory of the key to the colors, the ISIS papers here. He is suffering a psychosis. He's suffering a psychosis. He's like the unelected policeman. So do we see something going on here? Unelected. It's like in the black church and black community, most of the preachers and pastors that they have, just even from the white world way of looking at it, most of them have not even gone to seminary school, don't even really know the Bible, but they have a call, you understand, and they give us a good show, you understand, they entertain us, and we like, yeah, that's entertainment. Well, that's entertainment, but not in the church. We don't need that entertainment and he's preaching and got the guy on the piano, and people feeling like, I'm really feeling. You want to dance? The niggas rapping in another way of rapping. It's like the youth that in the other story with Reed Blacker, and then the teacher asks this black student, this black male student asks him, I think Shumate or something like that was his last name, asks him to read Black and why do black people like grape juice and rap music. You know the answer to that? Because they're Hebrews. That's why. That's why. In fact, that should be another one. Why do black people like drinking grape juice? Why they like grape juice and rap music? Because they're Hebrews. They're real Hebrews. They're the Hebrews of the Bible. You understand? The grapes equals the wine. Wine, grapes, and the rap equals chanting, like chant a psalm a day. The psalms were not meant to be sung like the vulgar modern day gospel, the crass, the crap spell, it's not gospel, that's crap spell, it's a crap spell, because it's partly rolling the dice, because most of these niggas, when they get played out on the street, pimping, then they go up in the church.
Probably the same ones who created the Ouija board.
Ouija board, squeegee board. No. I hear what you're saying on that. Yeah, Ouija board, squeegee board. But I was thinking about that whole crap spell. The whole crap spell, not gospel, it's a crap spell. You know what I mean? Because they roll the dice and, comes up snake eyes. Got sixes. Got those sixes. Roll those sixes. Oh, snake's eyes. And nigga know how to hustle that. It's the same way. Because, remember, you're speaking to a bunch of ignoramuses in the church. Most of them don't even know the Bible. So you can say anything and it sounds like, if you say it with enough showmanship, showman shit. You know what I mean? Showman shit. Then people gonna pick up on. But can you imagine that? Ask why do black people like grape juice and rap? Because they're Hebrews. They're the real Jews. That's why they like grape juice and rap. But see, here's the thing: they don't know their identity. They don't know who they be. That's the problem. And why they don't know who they be? Because of all these counterfeit this counterfeit religiosity. The church is the heart of it. And I was looking up some verses. If you look at Amos kind of tells you. You understand? Amos says, take away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols. Right? Then the next verse is what Martin Lucifer King said. He said, but let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. But then when you go to the next verse, the true Jah says, have ye offered to me sacrifice and offering in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Molech, of your king. So what does Boule mean? Boule means advisor to the king. Check this out. Boule means advisor to the king. And Molech is that owl that the white supremacists and Skull and Bones Bohemians that they worship. And Kiyun, your images. Now, Kiyun is Kivon. Kivon is Cain. You understand? Let's put it like this: is the goddess. We're talking about the false goddess, or the whoreship. Mm-mm. Not worship. The same thing's going on in the church nowadays. Look at most black churches. It's the same worship. You understand? These are not pastors of the God of the Bible, the true God of the Bible. They're pastors of Baal. So what you see going on in the majority of black churches, Balaam. These are prophets. These are pastors of Baal. So King Martin Lucifer King, he said this, but let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as mighty streams. He's Boule. He was Boule. That's why they told him he had to follow Gandhi's script. And Gandhi was an agent of Babylon. He was a Babylonian agent. He was an agent of the system. I'm using the biblical term because that kind of covers it all. You can go into the detail. Check out Bobby Emmett's. Bobby Emmett's the one on Jesus Christ, the devil, and what's the other name of the vid? It has another a secondary name. They have it, I think, in 3 parts. I think you had 1 to 3 parts and everything like that. That's an excellent. Yeah. What if? Yeah. What if the God you serve is the devil? Mm-hmm. See, and black folks won't even they're the lost sheep. That's why the Bible called them lost sheep. So now when you look at Molech, look at this. Martin Luther, what was his name? King, right? King, right? What does Boule mean? Advisor to the what? King, right? What's the Bible saying right here? But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Molech, of your king. You understand? Your skull and bones and your kiyun, your images. You understand? And what's the image for black people? It's the mother goddess. It's the whoreship of the goddess. And which goddess? The black woman. But look at this black woman. What is she? She's a victim of trauma. She has been made to be this dysfunctional, dysfunctional. I'm not talking about all black women. Some people think we're speaking about all black women. You know what I mean? But the thing I always say about black women is that black women who try to verse us and debate us. Oh, you hate your mother. You hate black women. I ask them how many sisters, black sisters, do you have as real close, real friends? They always be like, I can't trust those bitches. Oh. You can't trust those bitches. But that's why in our jurisdiction, you will be burnt with fire. You will get burnt with fire, stoned to death, beheaded, or something else. It sounds harsh, you understand? But judgment is harsh. The white man could do the same thing, and you wouldn't complain about it. You might complain a little bit, but you're not going to leave the country. You're not going to fight back, because if the black man says, oh, we're going to fight back about this, what the bitch is going to do? The bitch is going to jump up and say, oh, you're going to end up dead, and then it's going to happen. Where did all this come from? How to Make a Slave. Let's Make a Slave tells you right there. Niggas don't want to read it because part of the programming tells them don't read this. And what Bobby Hemmett talks about in that video, what if the God you serve, you understand, was the devil? It tells you about there's been 12 million so far. We're in the so-called European Ashkenazi white Jews. Yeah, they may have gone through something based on their testimony, based on some of the evidence, though it's debatable, but they may have gone through something in the Holocaust, for a year or so. You know what I mean? And maybe 6 million. But we know more than 12 million black people have been Holocaust in concentration camps in America and experimented on, so forth and so on. In fact, I was taking a couple of notes. You understand? There's some public acknowledgement about these things. Some people were talking about it back in the 70s and the 80s. You understand? But there's still a public ignorance. And these things are carry-ons now from World War II. But only this time it's not against the white Jews, but it's against the lost sheep, the real black Jews. You understand? This time. Now, the post-slavery Holocaust, it has wiped out, you understand, about more than 12 million black people. You understand? Since 1865, since 1860s, and that's a key date because you hear all these people talking about now, that this period of time, 2012, is like the 1860s. It's like the 18. You keep hearing that. You heard Newt Gingrich talk about it. You can Google it. The 1860s. It's by other people. If you look up 1860s, like as a year, a date, with Gingrich, and then cross-reference it with other people, you're gonna find other people talking about the 1860s. Why? Because the 1860s were about Reconstruction. See, because they view Obama as a Lincoln type figure. hmm As a Lincoln type figure, and that Lincoln type figure, he's they blaming him and summing him up to be the one that's responsible for all this setback in the white Western American culture. So it might not happen just yet, because the system is still kind of running, you know, at its best. You know what I mean? But watch pretty soon. Like there's a couple movies, Extreme Measures. I saw you talk about Blue Skies as well. Extreme Measures, Blue Skies. You talking about the O.J. Simpson case is another movie. The Chase. Then there was a movie, The Never Ending Story too. Like I said, his lecture, he goes into more detail, and some of the things are kind of heavy for some. For others, it's going to be an affirmation or a confirmation, at least, of what they, what they already know, and what many of us have already, what many of us have already experienced and still are experiencing. I know I went a little bit away from the case of Trayvon, right? Trayvon, but it's just really, it once again proves the point that we've been making. It once again proves the point, and just to sum it up, Isaiah. Check out what Isaiah says right here. Is it Isaiah? Well, we go to Isaiah for a moment, but let's go to Malachi. Malachi said, "For behold, the day cometh," Malachi 4:1, "the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Yahweh Tzebaoth," or in the King James, quote, "the Lord of hosts," end quote, "that it shall leave them neither root nor branch." And that was the point that I just, as I watch these cases, on one hand, the deadbeat thing, the deadbeat black man, the deadbeat baby fathers, the baby mama dramas, which is all another carry on from slavery. It's a carry on from slavery. We've been programmed into this behavior. The black woman generally have been programmed. The black men have been, but they've been broken and programmed. They've been traumatized and programmed generation after generation into this sort of apathetic behavior. And then now the church, the so-called black church, by and large, is an accomplice. And then amongst the black church and the black so-called intelligentsia, you have the boulets, and the so-called the black Greek frat people, who by and large have sold themselves out. They may, like Bobby Hemmett was talking about, in college they have the dreadlocks, until they graduate. And after graduation, they cut off their dreadlocks and go work for a Fortune 500 business, and they're done with the revolution. So when the children now get a little buzz of the revolution, then these people start to brag about what they did back in the days and how they did this, and don't tell me I'm not down with the revolution, that this is the way to go. You understand? Be a boule. Be an advisor to Molech. That's what the boule are. The boule are advisors to Molech. And what's so interesting in the scripture that I just quoted before, Malachi 4:1, that's actually from Amos. Amos, a very interesting book. Now, many of us know Amos from Amos 9 and 7. "Aren't you like the children of the Ethiopian unto me, or children of Israel?" Well, that right there is pointing out our identity as Ethiopian Hebrews. But the lost sheep, they're called lost sheep because they don't know and they don't acknowledge, and are being prevented even by trauma, from acknowledging who they are. And the gatekeepers that keep the lost sheep lost is the church. It's the so-called black church are the gatekeepers for the black Holocaust, not preventing the black Holocaust. On one level, they will explain it like that if it wasn't for us, you understand, white people would do worse things to us. So we're holding the line and everything. But really, the Holocaust is going on because there's been black people who have disappeared throughout this country. And we're not talking about just a couple of you know um, missing, still missing persons. We're talking about whole communities. He makes an example in his vid where he talks about that there's a particular community where the whole community has like been like kind of like gentrified, and everybody has almost, all you see is a couple of people, a couple of old timers. And here's what they do: is that it's not the white people who bought it up, but what they did was give the finance monies to a black church, and this black church set up like a dummy corporation. You understand, like a real estate development, some kind of company, and they have bought it up based on the monies that they received from secret society white supremacist types, who have actually used the black church as a front, just as Mary Saunders. And what Mary Saunders said, she said, we need to have the black church to keep the niggas in line. We need to get some black preachers to keep the niggas in line. And now, what's so interesting about what Mary Saunders said, and she's the one who did the Planned Holocaust, Planned Parenthood, the Genocide program and movement, so forth and so on, in order to keep the number, all the evidence about her being a eugenics, American neo-Nazi, white bitch racist. But see what happens that the feminists now have taken her up on their palanquin, you know what I mean? As like a god, like they do in some of the Southern European and the European countries where they carry like Mary around on that little carrier, that little palanquin and everything. They've lifted her up, to be some icon of the feminist movement, and it's about the woman's rights. The woman's rights. The woman's rights. Really? Tell us about those black women who are spiritually grounded enough and wise enough that resist all that feminist, satanistic propaganda. Tell us about what happened to them. You don't want to tell us about those women. Wasn't they declaring their rights and that their opinion was right? They cart them off. You know what I'm saying? They disappear them. They cart them off, send them to a crazy house, or take their children from them. And that's why I was saying that you're going to see a lot of this going on.